And thank you for joining us for the Athens Affordable Housing Commission. And we do have a quorum present here today. There are at least six members of the commission currently present. And so the first thing on the agenda is the disposition of the meetings the minutes from our March meeting. And I know those were sent out by Molly, and hopefully everyone has had a chance to review them. Does anyone have any questions or items that they would like to make note of for adjusting on the minutes? If not, if I could have a motion to approve the minutes. I've got a motion from Paul, a second from Joyce. Thank you. And all in favor of approving the minutes, say aye or raise your hand. Aye. And thank you. And the minutes have been approved. And we are very fortunate today to have a guest joining us. And our guest is Glenn Crippen from HAPCAP, and he agreed to join us today to talk with us about some, as far as I know, some potential funding sources and programs that might be available to the city, or that we as the Affordable Housing Commission might be able to learn about and propose some options for utilizing. And Glenn, any of those that could be specifically for housing revitalization, I think is one thing that we're especially interested in as a commission. So without further ado, I'd like to turn it over to Glenn to tell us about some options. And so thanks so much for joining us.
Sure. Thank you so much for having me. It's my pleasure. Hocking Athens Perry Community Action is fortunate enough to partner with the city on various affordable housing issues. Currently, the city partners with Athens County and the city of Nelsonville for the Community Housing Impact and Preservation Program. The acronym for that is CHIP. Many people have probably heard us talk about the CHIP program. It is federally funded, and it uses CDBG dollars as well as home money, which is also administered by HUD. So CDBG and home that comes from HUD, and also some state funding through the Ohio Housing Trust Fund is used to perform home rehab and home repair services. Rehabs are much larger projects than home repairs. And so we have rehabilitation, repair, home repair. We also have new home ownership assistance. And we assist clients in the city of Athens in a number of ways through the CHIP program, not only the rehab and the repair, but with the home ownership assistance program. We can partner with Habitat for Humanity to get folks into new homes, which we do. But also CHIP offers a down payment assistance program combined with rehab, so that if we find a client that's interested in home ownership but can't quite afford the startup costs of the closing costs or the down payment, and the house needing a little bit of work to get it up to a residential rehab standard, we can assist clients with that type of activity as well. So the CHIP program is a great tool. It's very flexible, and we currently have an open grant that was just funded in September of 2020 that we organized last spring. The city plays a partner to the county, and historically the city could apply for those funds on its own, but the state requested that jurisdictions regionalize and form a partnership, which basically allows us to apply for more money and cover a little more area in one big grant instead of several smaller grants. So the CHIP program is a great tool for affordable housing. The main goal of the CHIP program is not only to assist low to moderate income households, but it's also to preserve the affordable housing stock. So these investments are made on behalf of the city to clients that are eligible, which is an LMI household. So the primary beneficiaries have to be LMI, which is defined as a household being at 80% of the area median income. And so that's a little bit about CHIP. CHIP does carry a fair housing requirement with it, as does the city's CDBG infrastructure program. So any infrastructure money coming from HUD through the CDBG conduit, if you will, has a fair housing requirement. So there's two levels of fair housing participation that the city can embark on. And one is the standard fair housing program, which it currently has, which HAPCAP is proud to administer on behalf of the city. We simply offer an information and referral service for fair housing inquiries. We do receive lots of calls. Many of them are landlord-tenant based type of inquiries. Some of them could be discrimination. And when we do, we leave it to the client to report the discrimination if they're interested in filing a claim with the Ohio Civil Rights Commission. That's who handles the fair housing claims. So it has a standard fair housing program. And there's another fair housing program available through the same state agency, the Ohio Development Services Agency. If a jurisdiction is interested in beefing up its fair housing program and going above and beyond the standard fair housing program, and just before I get any further, so the standard fair housing program consists of performing trainings in the community to service providers of what fair housing law is, federal fair housing and the Ohio fair housing law. So we educate the community and service providers on what fair housing is, examples of it that are occurring in the community, and provide literature and a report process or protocol for clients that may feel they're being discriminated against as it pertains to the protected classes of fair housing. So in addition to the trainings that we perform, we also distribute fair housing and landlord-tenant handbooks throughout the city and on our website as well. And those are probably in the lobby of City Hall right now, perhaps, the fair housing brochures. So that's the standard fair housing program that comes with every CDBG grant that the city receives. There is a fair housing program that goes the extra mile to affirmatively further fair housing by performing additional trainings and awareness and other fair housing activities that the city may be interested in identifying. And that's called the New Horizons Fair Housing Program. And each jurisdiction can request up to $15,000. I know the statewide budget, I do believe this coming year, is only $50,000 statewide. I don't believe it'll receive a lot of interest, or perhaps it will be spent out fairly quickly. HAPCAP has pursued a New Horizons Fair Housing grant. It's been a long time ago, but we have successfully gotten them before. And one nice thing about the New Horizons Fair Housing program is it provides a little bit of funding for admin so that a community can analyze impediments to fair housing, if you will, because it's a big deal and we take it very seriously. And so it's wise to maybe explore a New Horizons Fair Housing grant. That's something the city can to look at if they're interested. But that's a little tiny bit about the programs that we're most familiar with, that we're working with the city on to promote affordable housing. It's just granted, I acknowledge it's barely scraping the surface, but we invest approximately $750,000 to $900,000 every 2 years, not only in the city but the county as well. It's easily to say that up to about $450,000 to $500,000 is used solely in the city of Athens for these types of activities. So that's a little bit about the CHIP program. We partner with the county every 2 years, and we were just funded last fall, and we're ramping those activities up now. Applicants that are interested in the CHIP program can apply through HAPCAP. We have applications available, and we also send out applications to a waiting list from calls that we receive from clients when we have downtime or that when there's no funding available or whatever. So happy to take any questions anyone may have about the CHIP program or fair housing.
I wonder what are the application standards? Like what determines whether someone will receive assistance other than the finances? Like that they have to be at 80% or lower of area median. So what are the criteria?
For the CHIP program specifically? Okay, so yeah, we have staff that will evaluate a house and what condition it's in. We have to look at our budget for the rehab projects, which are large, upwards of $40,000 to $50,000 investments. That assistance can be provided to clients that in the form of a loan that declines over time. It can be a 2 to 5 year period. That can decline over time of a period of 5 years. So the assistance can be provided in the form of a loan, repayable to the city, that declines over the period of 5 years, and a small amount will always remain permanent. This is just for the larger rehab projects. The home repair projects are much smaller, in the ballpark of $12,000 to $15,000. And there's no loan provided. It's provided in the form of a grant directly to the household. So, but to get back to your question exactly, what other requirements? So if the household is income eligible and it applies, and we have internal staff that will evaluate the feasibility of a rehab or a repair. And if we can get the house up to the residential rehab standards, which is defined by the state and the city code, of course, if we can do that, if they've applied and they're eligible and we can help them and get up to the standard with the budget we have, we can help. And we maintain a contractor database, contractors that have to be insured, pay into BWC, be up to date on their lead safety, to work lead safe and so forth. And we maintain a contractor database, and that's one of the biggest challenges of the program is maintaining a contractor database to perform this work. So, so we have to market for contractors and so forth, and we market for the program as well. And but if they apply and we have slots and we can help them, they're put into the approved list, and we work with them over a period of time for them to select 3 contractors from our list. And then we solicit cost proposals from 3 different contractors. I don't know if that answers your question exactly, Sarah, but so yeah, it's great. It helps a ton of people. Lots of great projects over the years, lots of great success stories. And it's hard to drive around without seeing a house on any given block that we've helped over the last many years of performing this work. So it's a great program, and we look forward to continuing to work with the city with the CHIP program.
Could you go into a little bit more detail about the rehab that you said, it could be 40, 50,000, and that
Sure.
could be a loan that declines over time. Could you kind of go into detail as far as
Absolutely.
what that means for the homeowner?
Okay, so if a home exhibits enough need to invest enough money into it that would require a home rehab, which is the largest level, financial level of our projects. If a home exhibits enough need from anything from the foundation to the roof, including the plumbing and electrical systems, if the home exhibits enough need, we can find it, and we can, if we can define or identify that amount of work, that's what makes it a home rehab versus a home repair. Homes that are needing more. Now we also should differentiate between owner home rehab and rental home rehab. Rental home rehab is available if the landlord is LMI as well. And if the landlord is not LMI, they are required to participate to fund 50% of the project. That aspect is not very popular, though, unfortunately, because most landlords that are willing to invest like to have more control over the process, and not HAPCAP defining the scope of work necessarily to get it up to the standards we see as necessary to meet the programmatic requirements. But we can and often do partner with the Athens Metropolitan Housing Authority for rental home repair, because they are viewed as a provider of housing that categorically serves customers that are eligible for CHIP. But to get back to the finance mechanisms, so these finance mechanisms on the rehab side of things, for home rehab, so those are required and defined by HUD. And it goes from HUD to the Ohio Development Services Agency, and the ODSA is who grants that HUD money to the county and the city. So that is a federal requirement, and it's defined in the City of Athens CHIP Policy and Procedures Manual, which is something HAPCAP maintains. Basically, it's fairly CHIP specific. It outlines our procedures, and those funding mechanisms are prescribed at the federal government level that we pass along. And so when the lien is placed on the home, when our work is being performed, if that client proposes to move out that very first year, all of the value of the CHIP rehab would become due, payable in favor of the city. And that's what generates the City of Athens Housing RLF Fund, Revolving Loan Fund, which does not have an enormous amount, maybe $10,000 or $15,000 in it. And each CHIP cycle, the state requires you to spend that down to augment other activities. So hence the revolving loan fund aspect. But we see very little housing income from the CHIP program in this city. Most of the homes we improve, people are staying in. But so that loan, once we do issue it, if they were to wish to transfer the title in the second year of the loan, it would be 20% less. If it was 40,000, by the second year, it might be down to 32,000, just for example, and so forth. And then it'll go after a period of 5 years. The loan has declined to a portion that will remain permanent. That amount is usually 10 to 12 to 15% of the original assistance. So even if the occupier of the household proposes to move in 7 or 10 years, there's still a small amount due back to the city. And that's it. So the program does generate a little bit of income, but it's designed to help people. We don't want to be investing in homes and then have folks flip them and make a profit. So that loan mechanism, or that finance mechanism, helps clients stay in a home longer or permanently, perhaps. It's great. We've had very little turnover from city clients. Just a few here and there. Every once in a while, we get folks that are moving, and we coordinate the lien release with the city and get the lien release recorded, and then their titles cleaned up. So it comes down from the HUD level, and we have to do it, and it works. Paul.
Glenn, first of all, thank you for meeting with us this afternoon. This is really, really helpful information.
My pleasure.
I had a question about the down payment assistance programs and and the rehab.
Yes.
Can like things like that be coupled together, where you're giving a potential buyer down payment assistance and giving them rehab funds or
Yes.
repair funds?
Great question, Paul. Actually, the down payment assistance is specifically coupled with a rehab. So it's actually down payment assistance / rehab. They want us to help folks get into the home, but also make sure that it's going to be maintenance free for a long time so that the affordability to them stays present. So yeah.
Okay. And a second question on that. When you're helping with the down payment, is the home buyer still like, is there assistance, or is there are they getting HUD financing for their mortgage, VA financing, or are they just approaching local banks and Chase and?
Great question. They are approaching local banks. We do work with local banks when we put the application together to get commitments from local banks to participate in this program. But also, we do the CHIP program does partner with rural development through their home buying programs and the VA. So we can combo assist these projects in any way possible, whether it be other funds or other ways to fund the client getting into the household. So yeah, absolutely. Okay. We try to match CHIP, and we have a great partnership with Habitat for Humanity, who every CHIP round we put at least a couple slots into the grant for Habitat to provide a new build, and there's I think $30,000 of CHIP funding goes towards that, and Habitat matches it with like 70. And it's a great partnership. So yeah, we and our housing office is very unique and fortunate in the sense that we receive a lot of these calls regionally from folks that are needing assistance. So we know who needs what and how to plug them in best to our program. So one house could be benefiting from our weatherization program, the CHIP program, anything we can help with to create affordability and safer living conditions and a higher quality of life is what is our mission. That's what we're doing day in and day out. So those are our goals.
Thanks. That's really helpul. One quick follow up on that. So somebody, so we're a potential applicant in most of these situations, at least from the purchase standpoint. They're still going to be looking at an expectation of meeting traditional underwriting requirements, debt to income ratios, good credit, all of those, the standard things. Okay. And
Correct.
I would imagine there's a lot of hurdle. That's for a lot of people who might meet the income standard. The debt to income it would be a major challenge for them.
Absolutely, it is, and that it is a tough slot to fill in the CHIP program. And we cautiously take them on, but we always do find success stories. It's great too when we get to help somebody out at that level. But yes, like you said, there are credit barriers, debt to income. So finding someone that is eligible and fits into all the other eligibility nuances is tricky for down payment assistance, but they're out there.
Do you know if there's any communities, another challenge, of course, is that property taxes and homeowners insurance is a real cost to buying a home, and taxes in Athens Township or the city of Athens, even for a modest home, $100,000, $125,000, even lower than that, or you're still looking at, $1,000 for homeowners insurance, give or take, and $2,000 to $3,000 for property taxes.
Right.
Do you know if there's like any communities that have, and most of the property taxes, of course, go to counties and schools and levies and things like that. Are there any programs or communities that have like some sort of tax assistance or abatement programs for this type of a housing?
Unfortunately, I don't, Paul. And that is a big problem. The CHIP program will and can help a household pay for hazard insurance for up to 1
Okay.
year.
Okay.
We will get them started to help offset those costs, but that's a tough one. That is a very tough thing to fund.
Yeah.
I'm not aware of any funding to help with that kind of stuff.
Okay. Thanks,
Good
Glenn.
question, though. Thank you.
For the funds that you do have access to through HAPCAP for specifically CHIP programs, I guess,
Mhm.
is it you have a set amount for a cycle? And is it then sort of up to applications? How much goes to rehab? How much goes to, or how much funding is there and how is it allocated, I guess?
Sure.
Question.
Okay, so each partner in the CHIP partnership, which is the City of Athens, the City of Nelsonville, and Athens County, are each prescribed a certain amount that they can earmark in the application. However, since the county is the applicant and the grantee, and they are the fiscal agent, it is their responsibility for the grant administration. However, we do outline in the program partnership agreement that we intend to spend X amount of dollars in each community. And I do believe it's based on population and income data. And I do believe within the CHIP application, it's $450,000 for the county, $400,000 for the City of Nelsonville, and $400,000 for the City of Athens. So, but we're not tied to that ultimately. We could do more homes in the city than the county. It all depends on application, feasibility, who's applying, and what we can do. Or it may turn the other direction in that we serve more homes out in the county than the city. But within those allocations, yes, the owner and rental rehab, I do believe we put it in the budget at $58,000, which includes some of the costs that we need when we actually visit the home and spec out what needs done. We have rehab specialists that we employ, and some of the funding for their salary comes out of that cost, and that's the soft cost on the project. But a large majority of that will be remaining for the home, 50,000 or more. And these are just examples. So a large percentage of that is 50,000. I don't have the exact numbers in front of me, but it's upwards of 55,000 for a rehab, and it's upwards of around 14,000 for a home repair. I'm sorry, let me rewind. Down payment assistance combined with rehab is in the upper 50,000, maybe 58,000, 55 to 58,000. I have to get my numbers out. A rehab on its own without down payment assistance is around 48,000. And then a home repair is less. It's much less. It's around 14,000 for a home repair. The new home constructions in partnership with Habitat are $30,000 amounts of assistance. So yeah, it is very spelled out from the very beginning. We do have a cap, a not to exceed, and we have to spend down the city's housing RLF. It can be really a tricky program to administer, especially when you're about halfway through it and you still have a couple slots to fill, and a couple projects have come under budget. Sometimes we have to do a small home rehab. Sometimes we have to do a really big one. So it's variable, but we do have budget guidelines. I think we might be froze up. Does anybody have any questions? Any other questions?
Hey, Glenn, and Sarah, and I guess everybody. Can everybody hear me?
I can hear you, Paul.
One thing I was wondering about, we've been discussing in a lot of meetings, is an expectation that there might be a lot, or at least some current off-campus student rentals, that there may not be demand for rentals for the next couple of years, or maybe even longer, depending on how university enrollments. And so we might see some of these homes, perhaps they need a lot of work, but they might be good candidates for this type of a program.
Absolutely.
I'm just wondering if there's like an opportunity, or if there's a way, like does HAPCAP, do you guys have some lists of people who might already be pre-qualified for down payment assistance programs, or have already gone through some of that? And maybe is there an opportunity for us to partner? You know, if the city identifies some landlords who might be selling things, and we could say, you know, maybe there's an opportunity here. Let's see if we can set up a meeting, or
we would love to plan
like that.
We would love to plan something like that and be able to invest more in that. Absolutely. And part of the CHIP application process requires a planning component where we work with the community and the housing coalition and other housing practitioners to find out what the need is. And if that's that's an emergent need, especially from COVID, amongst other factors, that would be great to plan for that and collaborate around that type of thing with CHIP.
Okay.
Absolutely.
Great.
Yes.
Yeah, that kind of gets to the same thing I was thinking is, are there ever difficulties in spending down that, what you have available, and what could we in the city do to help make sure that that this process is moving along as smoothly and efficiently as possible for you?
Sure.
Like, what could we do to help identify some spots or things like that?
Absolutely. Yes. There are times where we'll get halfway through a program and we still need a slot or two filled. The city of Athens is one of the toughest communities to fill slots, believe it or not. Not only income eligibility, but people's preferences on what we're going to do to the home. And the large landlord base that we do have kind of squeezes us out of the immediate central area of the city of Athens and squeezes our work out into the county a little bit. So we absolutely do experience some challenges at times. We will market the program. We get with the city. We'll put it on the website. We'll put it out we'll do a social media push. We'll even put an article in the newspaper if need be to market the program. So yes, we do have to advertise for the program at times. It's if we get down to the end of the grant and we need a house or two, we will aggressively market the program. A lot of the slots go from applications that we receive immediately when we get funding and send out applications to our waiting list or enact applications that we've received. It's a pretty big rush. We also perform this work north of Athens County and Hocking and Perry County. We do not compete with Athens County because we alternate the year. It's a biannual funding cycle. So we'll apply for Athens 1 year, and we administer a partnership in Perry across county lines for Perry and Hocking County in the city of Logan. So we're real familiar. We get to apply every year, which keeps us, the program changes quite a bit, but the ability to work in other communities gives us perspective on the uniqueness and the challenges within the city of Athens when it comes to this type of investment. So yeah, it can get tough.
Does anyone else have any questions or anything you're wondering about? Yeah, I think I'd like to learn more about the New Horizons.
Sure.
We can. That seems like a kind of a deeper dive into, but that's something that maybe Paul and I could both look into whether that's something that we could get set up for the city.
Sure. Be
Yeah.
happy to send you some information from the consolidated plan if you'd like, just for an overview of it, and be happy to chat further about it as well.
Glenn, are there any other, when we're talking about affordable housing, low moderate income housing, are there any other agencies or groups that we should be looking at? I know we've Ohio Housing Finance Agency, of course, is an important partner to a lot of programs, and
Sure.
we have a OFA a tax credit project coming online in the city in the next year.
Yes.
City Planning Commission just approved it on Monday, or last Thursday, excuse me, and that'll have roughly 100 units of rental. But are there other organizations that you know of that we should be talking with or checking in with?
Sure, Paul, and you bring up a good point. The residential housing, affordable housing that I've been talking about is for single family dwellings. HAPCAP also partners with developers and OFA, the Ohio Housing Finance Agency, to help bring housing on a larger scale to the community through the low income housing tax credit project, also called LIHTC, or IRS Section 42 program, which is a whole nother ball of wax. And that's a great program, and it provides housing. Those are going to be great projects if those get funded. I'm familiar with those. Those will be awesome and help alleviate some of the problem. But other agencies that are providing some of this work, interestingly enough, HAPCAP is an applicant and a grantee for a very similar miniature CHIP program. It's called the Housing Assistance Grant Program, or HAGP, we call it. Very similar. It's funded solely through the trust fund, and it's for the most distressed households in the community, or households that are at 50% of the area median income, which is a little lower income threshold. And I also know that some of these same grant dollars are funded through other agencies, such as the Area Agency on Aging. They administer some affordable housing programs for seniors, I do believe. So some of our work crosses boundaries with agencies such as the Area Agency on Aging, also rural development and their home ownership program and their home repair program, whether it be a loan. And I know that I think it's awesome that Habitat for Humanity, I think, is looking at it, getting into providing additional housing through not only some of the work they're doing with constructing homes, but also providing housing when opportunities exist to partner with other agencies. So it should be an interesting summer, and we're learning a lot. We look forward to collaborating with Habitat for some new builds when the time comes.
Sounds good, Glenn.
Absolutely.
Thank you, Paul. This is Michelle Pappy. I appreciate, not Paul, I'm sorry, your presentation.
Thank you. It's my pleasure. Anytime.
I've heard it a few times, but it's always helpful to be reminded. Thank you.
Thank you.
So we're OFA, the Ohio Housing Finance Agency, has been mentioned a couple times here, and is the financing for the new project off of 682, is that the Woda Cooper development?
Mm-hmm.
That's through this, right?
Yes, those are proposed LIHTC projects. Yeah, the Kershaw Green, is that the one? Are those what you're speaking of? Yes.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, Kershaw and Taylor, I think.
Yes.
We're calling them. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. HAPCAP is actually serving as a co-general partner with the developer for those projects. So they look for commitments from nonprofits to provide services to these new developments, or just have on-site resource managers available sometimes, so that folks can have access and become aware of all the resources available to city residents, from whether it be energy conservation to transportation to housing to infrastructure to just about any of the services we administer. So we look forward to those projects, maybe knowing more about them soon.
And Glenn, one other thing about the LIHTC projects through Ohio Housing Finance, my understanding was, like, I think they kind of update their like their needs study across the state every year or two.
They do.
And the last time that they did that report, it was, I think, the city of Athens and Athens County rated as the highest or one of the most highest need county areas in the state.
Yes.
Which made, if a developer is ready to move forward with something, it makes it a good place for a low housing tax credit developer to do their business, to get it to be competitive.
Absolutely.
Do you know when that report might be updated again? I'm just curious to see.
I know the plan the annual plan you're talking about. I'm not sure when they update that, Paul, to be honest with you. I apologize.
That's all right.
I know that large funding decisions, I believe, are made are in the first couple weeks of May. But I'd be happy to look into that.
Okay. Thanks, Glenn.
You're welcome.
Thank you so much, Glenn. I have a whole page and a half, I think, at least, of notes here.
Wow, great.
So I really appreciate it. And I'm sure as I'm going back through that I will be looking things up and possibly reaching out to you for some more info on other things. So I really appreciate your willingness to come and talk to us today and just remind us of these programs that are ongoing in the city and the county. And it's my pleasure. Thank you. And it's great work. There's so much need, and there's so little time. But there is so much housing work that needs done and can be done, and it's just a matter of investment. Anything's possible, I think, with proper investment, and we are trying to help bridge that gap. Thank you very much. Thank you. Anything else for Glenn before we let him leave and move on with the rest of our agenda? Okay, thanks, Glenn. You're welcome to stay and observe, but we don't have much else going on today. I appreciate it. Thank you so much. Have an awesome day. Thank you. So the next thing was a discussion of possible programs for West Side rehabilitation that was specifically requested by Molly Fitzgerald, who I got a message from her just a bit ago saying that she was in another meeting that ran late and she could not get here. And so to please move that to next month's agenda. And so then after that, we have announcements and other business. Anyone have anything to bring forward to the commission?
Sarah, just really quick, just to reiterate what I mentioned to Glenn, or when Glenn was doing his presentation, is that the Planning Commission did approve the Kershaw Green and Taylor Green low to moderate income housing tax credit projects on Thursday. There's still a few small things that they need to work out, but they're basically approved with a couple conditions, which is great. Those projects are moving forward, and we should expect some construction to beginning in the next few months, I would imagine. And as I stated, that'll be roughly 100 units of 1, 2, and 3 bedroom apartments, looking at, I think, 50 to 80% area median income. And I put a link to HAPCAP's AMI for Athens County in the chat, and that'll be within the city of Athens. And we're really, I'll a lot of people at the city and city council and the administration have put a lot of effort into this project to get it annexed in and to get all this through. We've been, I think my first meeting with the developers was almost 20 months ago now. So we've been putting in a lot of time on it, and I'm excited to see it moving forward.
You're going to be ready to go with the shovel for groundbreaking.
Yes.
Paul and Sarah, I'm sorry, I'm behind speed on this one. So where is this located? Where was it annexed?
It's on 682 across the street from University of State's entrance. Yeah.
Okay. I did have something that the CARES Act money. I think there was some discussion I had, well, I'll just be frank with the mayor, about the UE project and whether the developer could be helped out there. Do either of you know anything about that? To get it back down to the affordable level using CARES Act money?
I do not. And
Okay.
My initial gut response to that idea is I would rather put CARES Act money into like some sort of a matching with CHIP program for West Side rehabilitation or something, because I look at the UE project as fulfilling a different need than the low to moderate income. It's just because our target was 125 to 250 from several years ago, and so I think if in that location 2 to 3 bedroom townhomes that are solar ready and energy efficient and fully accessible are at the high end of the price point that we established several years ago, I think that's okay, because I think they're maybe filling a different need. So I would like to look at CARES Act funding going to a different.
So has there been conversation about, for instance, rehab or any of that? I mean, have you all had any conversation about that? With them? No? Okay. It's okay.
I have not at this point, Michelle. We had a conversation, some brainstorming relating to CARES Act. I'm not sure where any of that's moving, but we did talk about the need for housing in the community, et cetera, as part of that process.
Okay.
So I think in my mind, sort of hearing an update from Glenn on opportunities available through HAPCAP, then I'd like to sort of think about, well, what could the city do maybe to partner?
Sure.
And they layer on as many different forms of help as they can. So if we could bring something in to help even more, so that maybe a down payment assistance and a rehab, we get that up to 70,000 instead of 50,000 going to the new home buyer. So those sorts of things, just kind of to broaden what we could do. But I'm totally off the top of my head here.
Yeah. All right. Well, I'd hate, the city is getting so much money, and I know that much of it is being used in other ways, which is fine. But it just seemed like there might be some seed money as well to try to, he mentioned even the code enforcement, I think director. Who is that gentleman's name now?
David Riggs.
Yes. He mentioned something about being able to, start something there. My biggest thing was going back to what you were saying earlier, Paul, about some of these rental housing and what the other gentleman said as well, who might want to turn over to family housing. There needs to be a place where somebody can go and talk to somebody, whether it was a housing hot link or a Proco's rental or whoever it was, from that from that way, but also from the other way of somebody who says, I think I meet the income guidelines and I'd like to get into this program. So I don't know. It was a broad conversation, but I thought there were some good things. So I don't know if either one of you want to follow up with him on some of that. It's something, Paul, we've talked about for years and years about there needs to be a place or an office or, where people can go. So anyways, my contribution for the day.
Any other questions or comments or announcements, other business before we adjourn for the day? I'm getting kicked out of my room in just a few minutes, so I want to make sure anyone who has anything to bring to the commission has a chance to do that. No. Seeing nothing else for today, do we have a motion to adjourn? Motion by Mr. Tremblay for adjournment and a second from Paul, and all in favor vote by saying aye or raising your hand.